Every single night for 6 months, I laid in my bed staring at the ceiling, clutching the jagged, burning 7-inch scar on my left flank, thinking my body was just failing me after a traumatic delivery. But last week, I looked at a medical scan and realized the sick truth. My husband didn't just bring our newborn son home from that hospital in North Miami. He brought home $500,000 in cash, paid for by the kidney he stole out of my body, while I was completely blacked out on the operating table. If you want to make sure you never miss the wildest, most twisted, and chilling real-life betrayal stories from across the United States, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. Trust me, you are going to want to hear exactly how this poetic justice hits. We were supposed to be living the ultimate dream out in a massive, sun-drenched estate right off Los Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My husband, Marcus, was always doing the absolute most, dripping in designer gear, driving a custom matte black Porsche, and bragging 24/7 about his high-end real estate finesses over on Brickell Avenue in Miami. But behind closed doors, the man was completely broke. He was deep in the hole, drowning in millions of dollars of gambling debt with some incredibly ruthless underground bookies based out of downtown Miami. I had zero idea. I was completely blinded by my pregnancy, glowing and picking out cribs, while my husband was secretly running around town, spending my family's money on a side piece named Vanessa, a high-maintenance girl living in a luxury penthouse right off Southeast 12th Street. The real horror started when Vanessa's health completely tanked. She went into acute kidney failure and desperately needed a black market transplant ASAP, or she was going to be checking out for good. When Marcus realized that Vanessa and I shared the exact same rare blood type, a sick, demonic light bulb went off in his head. He linked up with Dr. Reynolds, a dirty, corrupt chief surgeon at a private surgical clinic right off Biscayne Boulevard, who owed money to the exact same underground bookies Marcus did. Together, they cooked up the ultimate evil trade. When my water broke last November, Reynolds was the one on call. The labor was brutally painful, and things suddenly got complicated. They told me I needed an emergency procedure and pushed a heavy, crushing dose of sedatives into my IV, knocking me completely unconscious. While I was blacked out, totally helpless, having just brought my beautiful baby boy into this world, they didn't just deliver him. Dr. Reynolds made a second, deep incision on my left side, harvested my healthy kidney, packed it in a cooler of ice, and had a courier rush it down the highway to a black market medical suite where Vanessa was already prepped and waiting. When I finally woke up, my head was spinning, my vision was blurred, and I was in an agonizing, blinding amount of pain that felt like a hot iron was melting through my ribs. Marcus was sitting right by my hospital bed, holding our crying son, squeezing my hand with fake tears streaming down his face, playing the role of the most stressed-out, devoted husband on earth. He brought me roses. He kissed my forehead. All while the mother of his child was literally bleeding out from a stolen organ. For 6 agonizing months, my life was a living hell. I was completely hollowed out, utterly exhausted, and dealing with a deep, sickening ache in my lower back that made it hard to even lift my baby. Whenever I cried from the pain, Marcus would just roll his eyes, tell me I was tripping, and claim it was just a regular, tough postpartum recovery. Then he'd get dressed, spray on expensive cologne, and say he had to go work late on a major property deal down on Brickell, when he was really laying up in a penthouse with a woman running around with my literal body part inside her. But I knew my body. I knew the physical emptiness I was feeling wasn't just in my head. Last Tuesday, I couldn't take the burning anymore, so I drove myself up the coast to a completely independent hospital right off Clematis Street in West Palm Beach, Florida, for a private full-body ultrasound. I will never forget the look on the technician's face. She stared at the monitor, turned completely pale, looked at me with pure confusion, and asked, "Honey, what year did you donate your left kidney?" My blood went totally cold. My heart stopped. I hired a high-end private investigator from Miami that very afternoon, and within 48 hours, the paper trail connected every single dot, from my exact delivery timestamp to Marcus's sudden cleared debts, all the way to Vanessa's miraculous overnight recovery. They thought I was just some clueless, vulnerable housewife they could exploit and leave for dead. But Marcus forgot one major detail. He forgot exactly who my family is. My father has deep, heavy ties to the exact same underground organization Marcus owed millions to. And in our world, when someone steals from you, You don't call the cops. You take it back with interest. Last night at 2 a.m., Marcus finally stumbled through our front door, smelling like top-shelf liquor and cheap perfume after a long night with Vanessa. He walked into the kitchen to grab a drink, and I flipped the lights on. He froze. I was sitting at the kitchen island, fully dressed, looking pristine, slowly sipping an iced tea. Laid out on the marble counter right in front of me were his signed divorce papers, a manila folder filled with his medical fraud records, and a single glass of expensive bourbon. He tried to laugh it off, acting casual, asking why I was awake. I didn't say a word. I just slid the folder toward him. As he opened it and saw the ultrasound photos and the private investigators' pictures of him and Vanessa, his face turned a ghostly shade of white. He fell apart, dropping to his knees, stammering, crying, claiming he only did it because the bookies were going to end his life, that he did it to protect our family. He reached up, his trembling hands begging to touch my knees, trying to ask for forgiveness. Right then, the slow-acting toxin I had been microdosing into his morning coffee for weeks, and completed with a heavy dose in that bourbon, finally hit his bloodstream. Marcus gasped, his eyes bulging out of his head as a blinding, white-hot, agonizing spasm tore straight through his right side. He collapsed flat onto the cold kitchen tile, writhing in pure, unadulterated torture, clutching his lower back and screaming at the top of his lungs for me to call emergency services. I just sat there, looking down at his pathetic, weeping body with total, icy indifference. I told him the ambulance was already on its way, but that the chemical compound he just fully ingested completely destroys and fries healthy renal tissue within 60 minutes. His remaining right kidney was officially dead. But the absolute best part, I leaned down over his shaking body, my voice dropping to a harsh whisper right against his ear so he could feel the exact weight of my pain. I told him that while he was out living it up with Vanessa earlier that evening, my dad's enforcers paid his little girlfriend a very quiet, very terrifying visit at her Brickell penthouse. We gave her a very simple choice: return the stolen property immediately or face the permanent consequences. And guess what? Vanessa didn't hesitate for a single second. She chose herself. She signed the emergency medical consent waivers instantly. While Marcus was burning and crying on my kitchen floor, Vanessa was laid out on an operating table at a private clinic in Georgia, getting my kidneys surgically cut back out of her body to be placed safely into an anonymous medical donor network. She never loved him. She just loved breathing. I stood up, picked up my designer purse, grabbed my beautiful son from his crib, and walked out of that house into the warm Florida night, leaving Marcus alone on the floor to spend the rest of his miserable life hooked up to a dialysis machine.